Hello, I am Dr. Arpana Dhar Das here, Assistant Headmistress of Margaret Sister Nivedita English School, Pradhannagar, Siliguri. I am here today for the students of class 12 who are going to appear in the Higher Secondary Examination 2021. I will be discussing in short a portion of Chapter 3 entitled Marine Processes and Associated Landforms. Now, when we approach the sea or when we visit a coastal area, we see certain coastal features which are actually formed due to the action of the sea waves, which is predominant over there. Now, at the very onset, we will learn the definition of the waves. What are sea waves? Sea waves are nothing but the oscillations of surface water. They rise up, form a crest, they fall down, form a trough. Now, we need to know some terminology associated with sea waves and their action. What is wavelength? Wavelength is nothing but the horizontal distance between two successive crests. Now, what is wave height? It is the distance between the crest and the trough. Now, next to terminology, that is swash and backwash. Now, when the wave topples over the waves, it brings in certain materials from the sea. This forward movement of the waves is known as swash. Now, the waves move back again to the sea, taking the materials of the coastal areas. This is known as backwash. Swash is associated with construction work and backwash is associated with destructive work. When backwash is more powerful than the swash, then the wave is destructive. When the swash is more powerful, then we say that the wave is constructive. Now, next we come to the different erosional processes of the sea waves. There are 4 different processes. The first one is abrasion or corrosion. Second one is attrition. Third one, solution and solvent action. And number 4, hydraulic action. What is this abrasion? I will discuss with the processes one by one. This is the mechanical action of the sea waves. It is the wear and tear of the coastal areas where we find disintegration, undercutting, breakdown of coastal rocks. This is also known as corrosion. Next process is attrition. This is also the wear and tear, but it is between the materials which the waves carry. It is the friction or collision between the particles carried by the waves. They clash against each other and break down into smaller particles. Next action is solution or solvent action. The seawater is composed of certain acids, and the rocks over there, rocks in the coastal areas, they are also a mixture of composition of certain chemicals. So, when the seawater is acting on the coastal areas, it dissolves some coastal rocks and wears them away. This is also a process of marine erosion. The last one is hydraulic action. This is actually the splashing of the sea waves against the coast, and the water which is carried by the waves, it enters into the cracks and crevices of the coastal rocks. We find that the air is trapped in, that is compression first into the cavities. When the water goes into the cavities, there is compression of air. Air is trapped inside. When it recedes, when it comes back, the air is released. This continuous process of compression and expansion leads to the widening of the cracks and eventually the breakdown of the coastal rocks. Now straight away we go to the erosional features formed by the sea waves. The first feature to be discussed is the inlets, capes and bays. Inlets and capes, it is the same, and bays, actually we call it headland also. When the coastal area is composed of hard and soft rocks and the waves go and splash against such a coastal area, then we find that the softer rocks get eroded at a faster rate. So this continuous erosion of the softer rocks leads to the formation of bays or capes, bays or inlets. Bays or inlets, it's better to call them inlets. And the hard rocks, they resist erosion, although they are eroded to a certain extent, but we say that the hard rocks resist erosion. They eventually form the headlands. Next formation, which is very common, they are the sea cliffs. What are these sea cliffs? They are steep-sided vertical wall-like rocks which are facing the sea. Now when the waves attack the coastal area, a notch is formed at the base of the rock. As undercutting remains constant, the notch actually widens and then an overhanging land projects seaward. In course of time, the notch widens, in course of time, the hanging rock actually falls into the sea and the vertical wall-like cliff is formed. So very simple. If it was possible, I could have drawn the diagram for you, but in the next class, if I take the next class, I will try to draw diagrams for you. Next formation is the wave-cut platform. This formation is very much associated with the formation of the cliff. Now, when the notch is formed, the action of the sea waves doesn't stop. It continues and the notch gets on extending. The tossing of the waves, armed with sand and pebbles, wears back the notch and widens it to such an extent that a bench-like topography is formed. Such a bench-like topography is named as the wave-cut platform. We switch over to the next features together, that is the cave, arch, stack and stump. Sea caves are formed at the base of the cliffs. What are caves actually? They are huge hollows. Now, when the coastal area is formed of soft rocks, then it gets eroded away very easily. So, Due to the erosion of the soft rocks, huge hollows are formed. These are termed as sea caves. When two caves from the opposite side of the coastal area approach towards each other, they meet. They meet together and one can see through the hollow. And when caves develop on either side of a projected rock or headland, it ultimately unites. And what does it form? It forms an sea arch. Now the roof of the arch, in course of time, due to continuous wave attack, it collapses. And a part of the headland is still there. This is known as the stack. The stack is also eroded in course of time, and still a resistant mass remains over there. A small one, a dwarf-like feature, which is called the stump. Next interesting feature of marine erosion is the blowhole or glop and the geo. When caves are formed on the cliff, the compressed air armed with waves is continuously forced into the cave, which ultimately creates a hole in the roof of the cave. So the waves, they flow into the cave and they attack the roof of the cave, forming a hole. This is known as the blowhole. So what happens actually? The water takes entry into the caves, and then when the hole is formed, when the blowhole is formed, it comes out through the blowhole by making a sound like glop, glop, glop. So this is actually a blowhole. Now eventually, in course of time, the blowhole actually widens. It goes on widening and widening, and ultimately it leads to the collapse of the cavern or the cave roof, forming an inlet, huge inlet. Or this is known actually the geo. The inlet or the creek which is formed due to the collapse of the cavern roof is known as the geo. Now I will stop here for today, and I will go to the depositional features on the next day. One thing I would like to remind you, that when you go through the features, please know the drawing of the features and the examples. Please go through the examples. Thank you.